Yeah, she's pretty good. Alright, we have rules for the Black Library character Celestian Sacresant Aveline. I think she's the only Sacred Rose character that has ever been given rules, unless Selena Agner from Dawn of War was given 40k tabletop rules at some point. In 10th edition of Warhammer 40,000, the rules for characters don't prevent you from taking them in your army if you don't match up to a certain order to stay canonical. You just pick a detachment. It isn't the Argent Shroud detachment, it's the Bringers of Flame detachment. Having different characters from different orders in your army could represent them advising, or maybe a member of the Valorous Heart also had a church collapse on her except for the pulpit, and then she became a canoness and now she wants that pulpit to fly. You could just have your own version and use her rules. That's not necessarily Junith. If we were locked into those rules, then from the current models that come from the Ordo Militant, we would have our Martyred Lady, our Martyred Lady, our Martyred Lady, our Martyred Lady, and the Argent Shroud. So it's good to have more love for Yorkshire. So take that, Bloody Rose, and your extensive updates in 8th and 9th edition. You go over there with the Valorous Heart as unloved in this edition. I mean, at least the Ebon Chalice is partly the inspiration for Bringers of Flame. Celestian Sacresant Aveline is the relic bearer of the Holy Sword of Saint Arabella, and she travels around the galaxy killing demons. Her story is set towards the end of the 41st millennium. If you've been keeping up with the lore, which has been going on since 8th edition, she is active before the whole fall of Cadia, the Indominatus Crusade, the Primaris Marines, all of that. When she's around, there are no Primarchs bestriding the galaxy. They're either asleep, dead, or holed up in the Eye of Terror. She's the heroine of the story Demon Breaker from Black Library. And Black Library has also had a lore short story, well, an e-short, so it's online only, called Infernal Motives, where she helped Skitarii to destroy a demon factory. Is that a factory producing demons? Is the factory itself a demon? Yes is the answer. Aside from when she occasionally helps other people, she acts alone, and to exemplify this in rules, she has the Lone Operative rule. And she can't join any units. She's always by herself. While her rules are on screen and hopefully big enough for you to see, even on mobile, I'll read it out to provide audio for the people not looking at the screen. She has a pretty standard Battle Sister heroine profile. Movement 6 inches, toughness 3, a save of 3+ with a 4+ invulnerable save, 4 wounds, which matches the Canoness and the Palatine, but not the Canoness that's flying, she only has 3 wounds. Leadership is 7+, and objective control is 1. She is Adepta Sororitas, so is intended to be fielded in your Battle Sister army, and her keywords are infantry, character, Imperium, grenades. She has grenades, so if an enemy tank, like a demon engine, decided to ignore her, thinking, oh yeah, it's just a lady with a sword, you can throw grenades and cause mortal wounds. She has her own name as a keyword, which is standard, and she's an epic hero. As she's an epic hero, you can only include 1 in your army, and you can't have any enhancements or leveling up in your Crusade games, but you can have her on your Crusade roster. It's just that her story has already been told, or is in the process of being told. You can't influence it in any way in your games. Her weapons are a standard Ministorum Handflamer, so that's 12-inch range, d6 shots, automatically hitting because it's Torrent, strength 4, no AP, and damage 1. It has ignore cover and it has pistol because this is a standard Handflamer. Her special melee weapon is the Thorn of the White Rose. This is a sacred blade. While I would prefer that she didn't run off alone with the most sacred relic of the Order, on the table she can only be taken in Adepta Sororitas armies, so sisters are present there who could recover the relic if needed. They do love to do that. Since 2nd edition, whenever there has been a call to make a scenario for the Adepta Sororitas, 1 out of 3 of those scenarios have been about recovering a relic. And we do have a precedent in 9th edition rules for Celestian Superiors carrying special relics, even when there may be a Canoness or a Palatine available. A sword, which is the Thorn of the White Rose, is an odd choice for the calm Saint Arabella, but I suppose she isn't running screaming with her sword at the enemy, unlike Saint Mina. The flamer handle part of the sword isn't represented in the rules at all. Her shooting attack is just the hand flamer in your other hand. And the sword as a relic is a bit disappointing. It only hits on a 3+. The Canoness and the Palatine are hitting on a 2+. So, are we sure that a Sister Superior was the best choice for this sword? This has 4 attacks, so that's similar to the Palatine. It's strength 5, AP -2, and 2 damage. Aside from the 1 extra strength and the 1 fewer weapon skill, this is basically the Palatine's blade. It doesn't seem super special relic-y, and even the relic blade that the Canoness can have is strength 6, so I'm a little let down by the Thorn of the White Rose. Maybe this is a copy of the actual relic, a simulacrum, if you will. But there are several special rules that makes her combat skills a bit better. She has Lone Operative, we know that. She has Act of Faith, as she's a Battle Sister in the Battle Sister army, the Adepta Sororitas. She has a Feel No Pain of 6+, that's okay. I mean, it's going to be annoying to keep having to roll that, but at least it's only the one model. You're not having to figure out a Feel No Pain for a Wound 2 model, then another Wound 2 model, and roll them all separately and slowly. You can just roll them all at once and see if she lives. That's the benefit of Aveline just being alone. 6 of Feel No Pain is a nice something. Her first special rule is the Instrument of the Emperor's Wrath, so once per battle at the start of a fight phase, she can use that ability, and she gets 3 extra attacks to her melee profile, and they have devastating wounds. If you're familiar with the Jump Canoness, this is the same kind of thing. And her other rule is Demon Breaker. Every time you make an attack against a demon unit, and that's whether you're shooting or in close combat, you reroll the hit rolls, which isn't going to be mattering for the Hand Flamer, but you also reroll the wound rolls. I'm glad the Demon Breaker hates demons. It's nice to see some weapons fighting demons, as there was very little of that in the Grey Knight Index, but a whole detachment in the Imperial Agents book specifically about making demons sad. But even then, it's not certain that they can win against the demons when the demons have a functioning index and a lot of unit choices. Imperial Agents don't. The Malleus detachment focuses on the 3 lots of 5 Terminators that they can take. I don't think it's a detachment that functions very well above 1000 points. Chaos Space Marine players will be a bit more annoyed at this because now we have something that fights Possessed, Obliterators, Warp Talons, whereas unless you are one of Vashtor's vehicles, and maybe can be a Vashtor vehicle in his detachment with a stratagem, the Chaos Space Marine players don't get to interact much with their own demon keyword. All of the anti-demon stuff does. Her profile is perfectly fine, but we know that she is 45 points. That's very good for 45 points. And this isn't the extent of her power, it depends on which detachment you field her in as the Adepta Sororitas. Hallowed Martyrs is the detachment she will like the best. If 4 wounds and a 6+ Feel No Pain wasn't enough for you, and she goes down, in the Hallowed Martyrs detachment we have Divine Intervention. Because any character, just not Celestine, can get back up. You generate miracle dice as you're destroyed, even though it's just temporary, and then you resurrect on up to 3 wounds. But 1 wound is what we want. The number of wounds you have depends on the number of miracle dice you spend, so you're going to be spending that 1 miracle dice you just generated from your own death, and 1 wound remaining is what we want, because after Divine Intervention, when she returns on 1 wound, you can have a very powerful Righteous Vengeance, and then you are rerolling hit rolls and wound rolls even against non-demon units. And because of the detachment rule, she will also be +1 to hit and +1 to wound when she's doing this, as she is under half health. That's very powerful, and you definitely want to bring her back if you want to complete more actions with her, or if you haven't got to use your once per game bonus attacks with devastating wounds. If you were charged in combat and figured, yeah, I'm gonna die before I get to use my extra attack abilities, you could instead, or as well, use Spirit of the Martyr. This lets you fight after death, and then you can fight knowing you're going to get to use your once per game super ability. Yes, you can then resurrect her after that with Divine Intervention, but I don't think you want to be throwing 3 command points at her. But the Hallowed Martyrs attachment gives her the most to work with. In the Penitent Host, there isn't a lot. She can't take enhancements as she's an epic hero, so she can't have the enhancement to let her lead a penitent unit. She can use Boundless Zeal to shoot or charge after falling back, but you would want to save that for a Penitent Engine or a Battle Sister squad so that they can fall back and still shoot. In the Bringers of Flame detachment, her Flamer becomes Strength 5, but that's about it. The Bringers of Flame doesn't give much for melee units. That doesn't mean she's completely incompatible with the detachment, just that she will operate better in the Hallowed Martyrs. The Rites of Fire and Cleansing Flame stratagems will work on her, but those stratagems are better spent on disembarking Dominions or Seraphim with Hand Flamers. Don't use Cleansing Flames on just 1 Flamer. There's Righteous Blows to give lethal hits, but if you are doing that on a turn when she is using the Instrument of the Emperor's Wrath, any lethal hits can't also be devastating wounds. You skip the wound roll part. You just have a successful wound and not a successful critical wound. Shield of Aversion can be used on her, but it's only valuable if you're hit by something that is AP-- Anything more than that, and she'll be saving on her 4+ invulnerable save regardless. but it lets you keep her alive to complete secondary missions or charge into a thing you want to feel the pricks of the thorn. The Army of Faith is thematically the most sacred rose detachment. It's about having lots of miracle dice. We already have a 6+ Feel No Pain on the model, so you don't need to have the 1 command point spent on her for Shield of Faith, but if a friendly jump pack unit was nearby, they could use it and Aveline would benefit. Same as with the Light of the Emperor to ignore modifiers or Blinding Radiance to be -1 to hit. That can be annoying for enemies trying to hurt her and any jump pack units and anyone near the jump pack unit. Divine Guidance is a good stratagem as it will add a point of armor penetration to her sword, and so Chaos Space Marines are now saving on a 6+ rather than a 5+, except, you know, the demons are almost certainly going to have a 5+ invulnerable save. But Obliterators will be pushed onto that 5+ invulnerable save. But if she kills one model, you get a miracle dice. Same for Faith and Fury. You get Lance for +1 to wound, and if she charges, she can make her combat attacks perform better, as Strength 5 is okay, but could be greatly improved. This will let your 3 extra attacks once per game work better, and then if you kill something, more miracle dice. Aveline is probably not going to be using many miracle dice herself, so the ability to use 2 miracle dice per unit per phase isn't super valuable for her. You could spend 1 or 2 on her to keep her alive with her invulnerable save and her armor save, because a 4 will pass her invulnerable save against any high damage shots, and a miracle dice to assist in a charge roll, that's always welcome. Now, how are we using her on the tabletop? As she is a lone operative, she can't be shot outside of 12 inches, so you can have her run around and then charge something you want to feel pain. She can just go in and hit things. Once per game, it's really good, and you're usually only in combat for 2 of the battle rounds, and if the thing she kills dies, probably less than that. So I would use it at the earliest sensible opportunity. So anything other than, yeah, I don't need to kill 1 Nurgling with my super special devastating wounds. And she can complete actions and secondary missions. She is the cheapest lone operative available to us because you can go cheaper than Ephrael Stern and Friend. But our cheapest unit to complete secondary missions is the Crusaders or the Death Cult Assassins. They are in Legends, but so is Aveline. So if you're using one, you can also use the other. And of course, Aveline can be both things. Complete secondary missions, including killing people as a secondary mission, and stabbing the stuff you want dead. So yes, she is Legends. And I know some people will go, at the thought of Legends, but you can't say that there are no viable rules for her. Games Workshop has spent time making rules for her, and like every other model, you can use the rules for them if you want. And you can't say that Legends are unbalanced because, I mean, you can't see it, but I'm gesturing to 10th edition in general. And you may complain that if Games Workshop intended you to use Legends, then they would have put it in the rules on their app. But they intend to have you use the balance patch rules, and they are not on the app. It's a whole thing. And would you look at that, we appear to have found ourselves on the hill that I die on, yet again. But I know I have tournament players in my audience. So if you like the model and you want to take her to a tournament, she will be most suitable as a Celestian Sacresant Superior. She is Celestian Sacresant Aveline after all. She would be armed with a Spear of the Faithful. It's easy to remember its stats because it is the same as the Thorn of the White Rose, but with 1 fewer attacks. Then you also get the Hand Flamer and the shield, and it looks right. But it's up to you if you think Celestian Sacresants are worth taking at tournaments. You could use her as a Canoness with a Blessed Blade and an enhancement like the Blade of St. Eleanor, or the Martyred Lady's very similar equivalent that used to be called the Blade of St. Eleanor, but you would have to pretend that the Hand Flamer was an Inferno pistol or a Plasma pistol. As a Palatine, you have the same problem. The Palatine can only have a Plasma pistol or a Bolt pistol, so you would have to cut your precious limited edition model, or claim the Hand Flamer as a Plasma pistol. If instead you take the Palatine option with a Bolt pistol to a tournament, you have my nod of approval for respecting the Holy Trinity. Taking Aveline to represent any of these models at a tournament event, you will be expected to rebase her. The standard for tournaments is that proxy models are okay if they are clear what they are, and they're on the current base size sold for that model. Aveline comes on a 50mm base, the Canoness, the Palatine, and Celestian Sacresants are all on 32mm bases. If you're playing more casually and want her as a Canoness, don't worry about the base size. That isn't going to affect how fair the game is. Gesturing at 10th edition again. Though 10th edition is better than a lot of other editions have been for balance, so I won't be too harsh on it. but I don't think we can claim that Games Workshop factors base size in as a major part of rules design and intentionally, for balance, not for display, put the Hospitaller on a bigger 50mm base, but happily leaves Cato Sicarius on a 25mm base. But because Sister Superior Aveline is already sold out, I think it's more likely that what will happen is you use other models to represent her on the tabletop. Models like the Hospitaller, because that's on a 50mm base, and then you could swap the icon for any sword. In my previous video about this model, I explained ways that you could kit bash them using various parts across the Adepta Sororitas range. So have a look at that if you want to kit bash your own version and use these rules regardless. My darlings and viewers, have your Sacred Rose way on this Sacred Rose Day.